Hello everyone. Today we're in conversation with Mr. S Parthasarathy, head of the Alumni Relationship Office at IIM Bangalore. And IIMB alumnus himself has launched his second book titled How to Discover Customer Value: Tools to Grow Your Business. A very warm welcome, sir. This is your second book, and if I'm not wrong, it works around a framework that helps marketers and entrepreneurs to follow a structured process to understand what a consumer really wants.
Yes, customer value resides at the heart of any business. Ask anyone, they'll say if you don't understand that piece, it can become disastrous for your business. And following a process which is really not heuristic. Heuristic is basically back of the thumb kind of a way of understanding what customers want. That's what most people actually follow. I have interacted with a lot of marketers, founders, entrepreneurs, etc. Most of them don't have a structured process. So that is easily diffusible. That is something that other team members can actually use to discover something. So what I did was it triggered me to think and check out if there is a structured way of thinking through this problem and bringing some kind of a framework that allows you to think through the various elements that constitute customer value, the value contributors. So the value discovery canvas is basically a tool that I have developed, which is based on a framework that I have developed called the customer action cycle framework. It allows you to chunk down customer actions. Here I must just remind you that if you want insights into customer behavior, you need to look at customer actions. Because behavior is an aggregation of actions. And if you want insights, you need to look at action. So studying customer action, chunking it down to its elements, which is agnostic of products, services, domains, is something that anyone would like to have, in terms of a framework that is general. And that's what I attempted to do in this book.
Coming to my second question, sir, what was the process, while putting this book together? Because how different was it from your first book?
Interestingly, the second book is an extension of the first book. And both the second book and the first book, the genesis is not business. It's in therapy, in psychology. And my wife is a counselor. Okay, she works with parents and children for the last 12 years. And I found how effectively she used the idea of needs in addressing issues that are related to behavior. And what lies beneath, if you heard of the movie, right? So you want to understand what lies beneath the behavior of a consumer. What is the thinking process? What are they feeling, right? If you can transpose those elements into business, you will get some interesting insights. Very few people actually realize that most of your insights into, even in the marketing space, consumer behavior or understanding customers, actually comes from psychology. Right? Behavioral economics is, again, you can trace it back to psychology. Right? So in my second book, the genesis is basically from psychology and how you can apply it in the marketing and a business context. That's the kind of a very high level genesis of the second book.
Coming to my next question from a founder of Bharat Priyashni Rover to somebody who everybody looks up to. So when Bill Gates and Warren Buffett were asked about the reason for their success, both of them replied focus. So my question to you is that do you think that the young entrepreneurs are very ambitious but somewhere they lack focus?
I think it wouldn't be fair to actually generalize it. There are a lot of youngsters who are very focused. That's why they made it quite big. And trust me, people will not back their hard-earned money on founders if they're not focused. So for me, the generalization really doesn't carry much of water. There are a lot of businesses, a lot of founders who are highly focused, and that's why it's successful. But coming to the quality of focus, I think it's very important for the success of any business. Because there are a lot of distractions. Even now we took a session on value, so there are so many angles to it. It's like what I refer to as divergent thinking and convergent thinking. You generate a lot of choices, but to pick the right choice that is aligned to what you want is an art and science both. All right? So that is what you call focus. Focus is your multiple options, but what is it that you want to choose and focus upon is something not everyone can do. And but without focus, you are bound to dissipate a lot of energies and resources on something that is very precious. For example, talent, money, treasure, right?
Like influencer marketing is huge right now, but then we also understand that every influencer comes with different personalities, so that will obviously reflect in the product. So I want to understand that, is it good for the product or bad for the product?
When you're talking about influencers, you're talking about people who are brand ambassadors. I got a point. Not brand ambassadors, but people who actually carry your stories and stuff like that. See, that's bound to happen. You know what happens is, but most of the influencers, if I'm not mistaken, it's a business for them. You know, there's a brand A, they'll promote today. Brand B, they'll promote B. They're promoting themselves. So they have their own credibility at stake. They want to project their own image. Whether that projection of that image gets transferred to the brand, I'm not sure of of research that's been done on that. But I'm not sure how much of it is going to rub off on the brand. I think people make the distinction between the influencer and the product. Brand ambassadors is a slightly different ballgame because they are specifically being associated with a particular brand. Influencers are generally today A brand. So people kind of understand that they are an influencer. But choosing your influencer for any brand is extremely important. Who do you want to associate with? Because the trade-off is, suppose an influencer tomorrow gets into trouble, yeah, for some issue that happens when brand ambassadors. What is the impact on the brand? I quite honestly don't know. I'm not aware of any research that's been done, but that is something that one needs to chew on.
So, according to a research conducted, it is said that the attention span of people is 1.7 second on a phone, average attention span, and 2.5 second on a desktop. So, with this dwindling attention span, how is the brand supposed to create a loyal customer base, like just to survive in the market? Because if one Zepto comes, there are 100 Blinkits that's also going to come in place.
Building customer loyalty is a challenge for most brands and most businesses. And as you rightly pointed out, given the kind of short attention span across media, etc., it's a challenge. And companies are constantly looking at what is it that they can do differently. But usually there are a couple of things that are associated with customer loyalty. One is customer satisfaction that leads to loyalty. So whatever you're actually offering the customer, whether it's a product or a service, if the customer is satisfied, there is a high likelihood that they will be loyal to you, but not necessarily, right? Second thing is trust. How trustworthy is your brand, or how trustworthy is your as a supplier? So in trust, there are two types of trust. One is credibility trust, one is benevolent trust. Credibility trust is something like, have you delivered on what you've promised? Okay, if I think you've delivered on what you've promised, I will be loyal to you. Number two is benevolent. How much do you care about me? Is it all about I, me, myself as a brand, as a supplier? Or are you also bothered about what I want? Correct? So the perception, if I have a perception that you actually care for me, it improves the benevolent trust. And increasingly companies are looking at how do I improve the benevolent trust with my customers. So the customers are smart. So customers are able to, unless and until you're commoditized, If you're commoditized and I don't care, then customer loyalty is a problem. Like someone was discussing, you give something for X rupees, someone goes for 0.5X or something, I'll go to point. There's no loyalty on the internet. Whoever gives it to me cheaper, I'll probably go to them, right? So that challenge is always there. There is to build that customer loyalty is a challenge for all businesses. But I'd like to think that trying to build the trust, especially the benevolent trust, can be pretty helpful for brands.
Like you mentioned, customer satisfaction. I personally, and I think a lot of people confuse between customer value and customer satisfaction. Can you simplify that for us?
See, if a customer is satisfied, the question you want to ask yourself is, does it mean the two things? They're going to come back to you again in terms of loyalty. Number two is, how valuable is a service to them, right? So when satisfaction is basically an emotion, yeah? So when I'm happy with, when my needs are being met because you're providing some value to me, what are the kind of emotions that I evoked? One is satisfaction. I could be elated, I could be thrilled, I could be relaxed, I could be calm, right? So these are all the various emotions that are actually generated. I could be comfortable also, right? So these are the various emotions that are actually evoked when I'm satisfied and when my needs are being met. And when my needs are being met, it means there is something of value to me. But value is something that is not going to be there permanently. What you value today is not exactly what you valued yesterday. Now, when you're young, you might be valuing probably finances, wealth, or careers. You want stability, etc. As you grow older, health becomes more important, right? So value keeps changing. The dynamic nature. You can't be happy that now my customers are satisfied, so I'm providing great value. So you need to keep revisiting the whole idea of value, because the perception of what is value to the customer keeps changing.
So this consumer behavior tracking, I would feel that it's going out of hand. Like with all these artificial intelligence, just a couple of weeks ago, I learned about neuromarketing. So I want to understand that where do you draw the line? It's somewhere getting into your personal space, and general people don't even understand. If we Google something or we're surfing something on the internet, we don't know what level of information we're giving out. So don't you think it's somewhere the privacy is being compromised, and where do you draw the line?
When you talk about questions of privacy, you have regulatory bodies, right? They will regulate in terms of what is privacy, what is not privacy. Until the time that, especially in the digital space, what happens in digital space is you actually leave residues of your purchase behavior. You go to Amazon, you bought something, it's contextual marketing. Today you buy a headphone, tomorrow you go visit, they will say, oh, do you like to buy something else that is related to a headphone, right? So, or you buy a kitchenware and they'll show you all the other kitchenwares, right? The contextual marketing kicks in. That is obviously at the person. They can track your personal behavior. I don't think there's a regulatory issue with that. Until the time that a company is able to offer you personalized services, the flip side is they're able to offer you personalized services, right? And who doesn't want it? The Lakshman Rekha is usually determined by regulation. Until the time that you're not violating any privacy laws, I think you're on the right side of law. And if I'm able to take the data and throw up something interesting for you, which is personalized, you as a customer are likely to find huge value in the offering. Right? It happens. You go and buy a book from Amazon on meditation. Next time you go, they'll say, do you want mindfulness? Do you want yoga? Right? It happens, right? So they know what kind of books you actually read. Yeah. So sometimes it can be useful until the time they don't cross the line, and until the time you don't get calls or something keeps popping up, and you don't have the option of disabling it, then becomes a bit of a problem. If not, I think it's okay. We have to live with it. We have to learn to live with that.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful talking to you, and I'm sure I personally learned a lot. And everybody who's going to watch this later will have a wonderful time watching it.